Listen carefully. The day you stop explaining yourself, something ugly in people wakes up, because they were never asking for clarity. They were asking for permission to judge you. Every explanation you give is a small bow, a soft confession that their opinion sits above your spine. You think you're being reasonable, you think you're being mature, but in the real world, the man who explains himself too much is not seen as good. He is seen as controllable, predictable, trainable, and the moment you understand this, you'll feel embarrassed about how many times you begged in a polite voice. Because explaining is not communication when the other person already decided your value. It is negotiation for approval. It is you trying to be understood by someone who benefits from misunderstanding you. That's the trap. They provoke you, then they watch you perform. They throw a question like a hook. Why did you do that? And if you rush to justify, you just told them you can be pulled. You just announced you fear disapproval. And Machiavelli would smile at this because he knew the game. People don't respect your reasons. They respect your certainty. They don't submit to your logic. They submit to your frame. The prince does not stand in a courtroom defending every move. He moves. He lets the world adjust. The weak man explains because he wants peace. The dangerous man stays calm because he wants power. From today, you're going to notice it everywhere. The people who demand explanations the most are usually the ones with the least authority over you, but the most hunger to feel it. And if you keep feeding them, they'll keep eating. So breathe, feel the shift. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be respected. Why people demand explanations. Understand this. Most why questions are not questions. They're inspections, social interrogations. A person asks you to explain yourself when they want one of three things: control, reassurance, or ammunition. Control means they're testing if you see yourself as equal, or as someone who needs approval to breathe. Reassurance means they're uncomfortable with your independence, so they try to pull you back into their emotional system. Ammunition means they want you to talk long enough to contradict yourself, apologize, or reveal a weakness they can use later. Dark psychology is simple. People don't just listen to your words. They listen for your posture, your speed, your tone, your need. And the more you rush to explain, the more you advertise that you're afraid of their judgment. That's why manipulators love innocent questions. They'll smile and say, "I'm just trying to understand." No, they're trying to position you. They want you in the lower chair. They want you to feel like you owe them access to your mind. That's why they ask, "Why didn't you reply? Why are you acting different? Why are you doing this?" They're not seeking information. They're seeking dominance. Because if you can be forced to justify your boundaries, you don't have boundaries. You have temporary permissions, and permissions can be revoked. Machiavelli understood that in every relationship there is a hidden hierarchy. Someone leads, someone follows, someone frames the narrative, someone defends it. When you explain yourself to someone who has no right to demand it, you hand them the throne for a moment. You teach them that your choices require their approval stamp. And once you teach a person that you can be pressured, they will pressure you more, subtly, then boldly, then shamelessly. This is why strong men become quiet. Not because they have nothing to say, because they understand the cost of talking to people who are not listening in good faith. Your explanation becomes their leash. Your honesty becomes their tool. So the first skill is this: learn to recognize when why is curiosity and when it's a power move wearing a polite mask. The weakness signal: over-explaining. Over-explaining is a flare in the night. It screams, "Please don't think I'm wrong." And the world doesn't reward that. It punishes it. Because when you over-explain, you don't look innocent. You look nervous. You don't look transparent. You look guilty. Humans are brutal like that. They read your extra words as extra fear. They assume if you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't be desperate to be believed. This is why the calm man wins. Not because he's always right, because he's never shaken. People don't follow truth. They follow certainty. Dark psychology. The brain confuses confidence for correctness. And when you start spilling reasons, details, stories, emotions, you're giving the other person multiple angles to attack. You're handing them handles. They can grab one phrase, twist it, and now you're defending a sentence instead of owning your decision. This is how you get trapped in endless conversations that go nowhere. You explain, they poke a hole. You patch it, they poke another. You think you're solving it, but you're actually training them that your time is available for debate, that your boundaries are negotiable, that your no comes with an essay and a guilt discount. Machiavelli would call that a strategic error, because power is not proven by how well you argue. Power is proven by how little you need to argue. The prince does not explain his posture, he holds it. The moment you feel the urge to over-explain, that's your nervous system confessing something. You want to be liked, you want to be safe, you want to avoid conflict. And that desire is exactly what people exploit. They'll accuse you just to watch you scramble. They'll misunderstand you on purpose to make you talk more. They'll ask you to clarify, because the longer you talk, the smaller you become. So here's the rule. When you catch yourself building a courtroom speech in your mind, stop. That's weakness trying to sound intelligent. Say less. Stand still. Let them sit with uncertainty. Because the man who can tolerate being misunderstood is the man who cannot be controlled. And once you develop that muscle, you become rare. You become dangerous. Machiavelli's lens. Power never pleads. Machiavelli didn't teach kindness. He taught reality. And reality is this. The powerful do not plead their case. They do not beg to be seen correctly. They shape what people see. When you explain yourself, you're acting like you're on trial, like someone else is the judge of your choices. But a prince is never on trial in his own kingdom. He understands a cold truth. Perception is not earned through honesty. It is earned through control, and control comes from discipline, from restraint, from letting people wonder instead of letting them inspect you. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving people the illusion that they can audit your mind. You stop playing defense. You stop reacting. And reacting is what weak men do. Reacting is being moved. A man of power moves first, then watches who follows. He doesn't chase agreement. He demands alignment. That's why the world respects leaders even when it doesn't understand them. Because leadership is not a debate club. It's a direction. You think explaining makes you fair, but in many situations, explaining makes you smaller. It makes you look like you need validation to act. And the truth is, people feel safest around certainty, even if they complain about it. They call you cold when you don't explain. What they mean is, I can't reach you. They call you arrogant. What they mean is, I can't control you. They call you different. What they mean is, you're no longer predictable. This is why Machiavellian men learn to let labels bounce off like rain. Because labels are weapons. They're meant to provoke you into defending your image. And the moment you defend your image, you hand your image to them. So understand the frame. You are not here to convince people who want you weak. You are here to build a presence that cannot be negotiated with. Speak only when it serves you. Explain only when it benefits your strategy. If someone has earned your respect, you can offer clarity. But if someone only wants your submission, give them nothing but calm, because the most terrifying thing to a manipulator is a man who does not argue, a man who does not apologize for existing, a man who acts and lets the world adjust. Silence as a weapon. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. Most people can't handle it. They panic when you don't fill the air because the air forces them to face themselves. And that's why silence is a weapon in power psychology. When someone accuses you and you instantly rush to explain, you relieve their tension. You make it easy for them. You give them entertainment. You give them control. But when you pause, when you stay calm and say nothing, you reverse the pressure. Now they're the one performing. Now they're the one exposed. Now they have to justify why they came at you. This is how you make people reveal their true intentions without you lifting a finger. Let them talk. Let them repeat themselves. Let them get louder. The more they speak, the more you see what's driving them. Insecurity, jealousy, entitlement, fear. Most conflicts aren't about what happened. They're about who gets to dominate the frame of what happened, and silence holds the frame like steel. Dark psychology rule: whoever needs to be understood first is already losing. Whoever needs to defend first is already bending. Silence says, I'm not desperate for your agreement. It says, your emotions are not my command. It says, you don't decide what I am. And here's the part that separates men: the ability to tolerate being disliked. Because silence will make people uncomfortable. They will call it rude. They will call it cold. They will call it disrespect. But what they're really feeling is withdrawal. You stopped feeding their sense of importance. You stopped giving them access. And that withdrawal feels like disrespect to entitled people. So they escalate. They poke harder. They become dramatic. That's the test. If you break and explain, you just told them escalation works. If you stay calm, you teach them a new law. Your boundaries are not debates. This is why silence makes you dangerous. Not because you're trying to intimidate, but because you're no longer emotionally available for manipulation. The man who can sit in silence without shrinking is a man who cannot be steered. He doesn't chase closure. He doesn't chase approval. He doesn't chase peace at the cost of power. He lets silence do the work. And silence always reveals who's weak enough to need control. The frame control method. Now we make it practical, because power is not a mindset you admire. It's a behavior you repeat. The method is simple, but it will feel violent at first. You stop answering questions that are actually commands. You stop explaining to people who didn't ask with respect. You stop giving long stories to short-minded people. Frame control means you decide what this interaction is about, not them. When someone says, explain yourself, your nervous system will want to prove you're good. Don't. Replace explanation with a statement. Statements are higher status than defenses. I chose this. That's what I'm doing. I'm not discussing it. This works for me. Short, clean, no emotional foam, and then you stop talking. That last part is where men fail. They say one strong sentence, then they ruin it with 3 weak ones. They add, because. They add, I didn't mean. They add, I hope you understand. That's the addiction to approval. Kill it. The second step is timing. You don't respond instantly. Instant responses look like emotional reaction. A pause looks like authority. It tells the brain of the other person, you are not being pulled, you are choosing. Third step, boundaries without anger. Anger makes you look triggered. Calm makes you look untouchable. You can be firm without heat. You can be cold without cruelty. That's the Machiavellian balance. Fourth step, never argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you. If they twist your words, don't chase them. If they weaponize your past, don't defend it. If they demand reassurance, don't deliver it like a servant. You're not there to win their approval. You're there to maintain your frame. And a frame is a wall, not a curtain. Here's the final step. Choose where you explain. Explaining is not banned. It's controlled. You explain to allies, not enemies. You explain to people who earned access, not people who demand access. When you use this method, people will feel it immediately. They'll test you more at first. Then they'll respect you, because deep down everyone understands a brutal law. The man who doesn't need to explain himself is a man who believes he has options, and options are power. What changes when you stop explaining? The change is immediate and it's almost unsettling. When you stop explaining yourself, people start paying attention to your tone instead of your reasons. They start reading your posture instead of your words, because your reasons were never the real issue. The real issue was, can they move you? And when they realize they can't, their behavior shifts. Some become respectful. They become careful. They choose their words around you. They stop throwing casual disrespect because it no longer gets entertainment. Others become irritated. They feel exposed. They accuse you of changing. That's not an insult. That's confirmation. You did change. You stopped volunteering your power. You stopped giving them the comfort of knowing they can trigger you into a speech. And now, your presence has weight. Your silence has weight. Your decisions feel heavier because they don't come with begging attached. Even your yes becomes more valuable because it's no longer automatic. It's chosen. And your no becomes terrifying because it doesn't wobble. People hate a strong no because it forces them to accept reality. Over-explainers keep the door open for negotiation. Dangerous men close the door quietly, and the sound is final. This is the after effect. You become harder to manipulate, not because you become aggressive, but because you become unavailable to nonsense. You stop participating in pointless emotional trials. You stop letting insecure people drag you into their storms. And once you stop being a mirror for their chaos, they have to face their chaos alone. That's why they call you cold. They used to dump their confusion on you and watch you carry it. Now you don't. Another change. Your relationships cleanse themselves. People who loved your softness will miss it. People who exploited your softness will panic. And people who respect strength will finally take you seriously. You begin to see who was only around because you were explainable, because you were accessible, because you were easy to guilt. Those people don't love you. They love the version of you that they can steer. When you remove that version, they reveal themselves. And that revelation is priceless. Because now you're not just becoming dangerous. You're becoming free. Free from the endless, exhausting need to be understood. Free to act, free to choose. Free to let your results speak louder than your reasons. Tests, traps, and social ambushes. Now comes the part where most men collapse. The ambush. The sudden accusation. The passive-aggressive question in front of others. The, "So, what's your problem?" The, "Why are you acting like this?" These are not conversations. They're traps designed to make you react emotionally so the other person can take the steering wheel. The moment you start explaining in public, you look defensive, and the crowd, friends, family, co-workers, instinctively sides with the person who looks more composed, not the person who is more correct. That's why the trap is so effective. It's not about truth, it's about optics. So here's your rule. Never accept the battlefield they choose. If someone tries to interrogate you in front of people, you do not perform. You don't argue. You don't justify. You lower your voice. You slow your breath. You say one sentence that ends the game. Not here. Not right now. That's not up for discussion. Then you move on like it's done. Because it is. Another trap. The guilt question. After everything I did for you, you can't even explain? That's emotional blackmail wearing loyalty. Your answer is calm and clean. I appreciate what you did. My decision stays. No anger, no debate. Another trap, the misunderstanding. They twist your words and demand you correct them. If you chase correction, you give them power. Instead, you say, "Believe what you want." That sentence is nuclear. It tells them you are not trapped inside their perception. Another trap, the relationship pressure. If you loved me, you'd explain. That's not love, that's control. Your response is simple. I'm not proving myself. And then, silence. The biggest trap of all is the endless question loop. They keep asking why, because each why is another attempt to drag you into defense. You break the loop by refusing the premise. I've decided. That's it. The more you practice this, the more people realize something chilling. You cannot be baited. You cannot be shamed. You cannot be pulled into their chaos. And that is what makes a man dangerous in a world addicted to emotional control. The dangerous man's rules. If you want to become untouchable, you need rules that don't bend when pressure comes, because pressure is where most men leak. Here are your laws. Quiet laws, not loud ones. First, never explain to someone who is disrespecting you. Disrespect is not confusion. Disrespect is an attempt to lower you. Explanations in that moment are submission. Second, never argue with an emotional person who wants a reaction more than a solution. Their goal is not understanding. Their goal is control. Third, never litigate your decision. The moment you turn your choice into a debate, you teach people that your life is a courtroom and they are the judge. Fourth, never chase a person who is committed to misunderstanding you. Some people don't misunderstand by accident. They misunderstand by strategy. They want you exhausted. They want you proving yourself. They want you apologizing for breathing. Fifth, protect your no. A weak man says no and then donates an essay. A dangerous man says no like a closed door. No anger, no explanation, just finality. Sixth, say less than you know. The more you talk, the more you expose. The more you expose, the more you can be targeted. Machiavelli understood that secrecy is not paranoia, it's leverage. Seventh, let results speak. People respect outcomes more than speeches. They can argue with your reasons. They can't argue with your position. Eighth, choose your audience. Explaining is a privilege you give to those who earned it, not a service you provide to anyone with a loud voice. Ninth, never try to be seen as good by people who benefit from your weakness. They'll only reward you with more demands. And the final rule, tolerate the discomfort of being disliked, because the moment you stop explaining, some people will turn cold. Let them. Their coldness is withdrawal. It's them losing access, and access is what they were addicted to. When you live by these rules, you don't just become harder, you become cleaner. Your energy stops bleeding into pointless battles. Your mind becomes quiet, your presence becomes heavy, and people feel it. They may not understand you, but they will adjust to you, because that's what the world does around men who don't bend. Your new identity. The man who doesn't beg to be understood. This is where it becomes real, not motivational, not inspirational, real. From today, you stop living like your choices need permission. You stop handing people the remote control to your nervous system. You stop explaining yourself to insecure minds that only ask questions to feel powerful. You don't become silent because you're weak. You become silent because you're disciplined, because you understand the highest status move in any room is not talking, it's deciding. Let them misunderstand you. Let them doubt you. Let them label you. Labels are cheap. Your frame is expensive. The more you chase being understood, the more you shrink into other people's comfort. But the day you stop explaining, you force the world to meet you where you stand. You don't negotiate your boundaries. You don't argue your standards. You don't beg for fair treatment. You become the type of man whose presence trains people how to behave. And that's what dangerous really means. Not violence, not rage. It means you are no longer emotionally available for manipulation. You are no longer desperate to be seen correctly. You are no longer addicted to approval. You act. You pause. You observe. You speak only when your words change the outcome. Everything else is silence. And in that silence, people will feel your control. They will feel your options. They will feel your refusal to chase. That's what makes them respect you. That's what makes them careful. That's what makes you untouchable. Now I want you to lock this identity in with a phrase. Go to the comments and write, "I don't explain, I decide." Say it like a vow. Say it like a warning. And if this hits something in you, if you felt that shift, like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next level isn't louder, it's colder, it's cleaner, and it's yours.